Hello all you Hellions, and welcome back. For this week's video, we are going to start with the first of Dario Argento's The Three Mothers trilogy, Suspiria. Filmed in 1977, and wouldn't you know it, it's actually on my shower curtain. I have not done a shower curtain review in a while, so I was pretty excited once I decided to work on these sets of films to see that it is in fact on here. And here it is. Right there, Suspiria. I'm excited. This trilogy is very loosely based on characters from a collection of essays titled Suspiria de Profundis. More specifically, an essay titled Lavana and Our Ladies of Sorrow. In this essay, we are introduced to the three sisters. The eldest, Mater Lacrimarum, Our Lady of Tears. The second, Mater Suspiriorum, Our Lady of Sighs. And the youngest, Mater Tenebrarum, Our Lady of Darkness. My last video was all about this essay. You should check it out. These essays were written by Thomas de Quincey and in 1845 were published. Argento became obsessed with witchcraft and the occult after traveling through several European cities. So, the three sisters, Our Ladies of Sorrow, from De Quincey's essay, are now witches. Argento got more inspiration for this film from Daria Nicolodi's grandma. Nicolodi is a giallo actress in multiple Argento movies, and also his ex-wife, and the mother of his child. The grandmother claimed to have fled from a German music academy due to witchcraft secretly being practiced there. Hence, the Madame Blanc's Marcos Tanz Company. Argento is known for his giallo films. These films are, and I quote, a subgenre of Italian horror that are murder mystery thrillers that combine suspense with shocking horror. They often feature stylish camera work, excessive bloodletting, and jarring musical arrangements. The plots often include a mysterious killer in a black glove who stalks and murders beautiful women. But some giallos have supernatural elements. Check, check, and check. Argento's mother was a famous photographer that took pictures of beautiful women. He would often do schoolwork at the studio and watch women as they applied makeup. He has a knack for making women beautiful. For Suspiria, Argento starts with the middle sister, Mater Suspiriorum, Our Lady of Sighs. Mater Suspiriorum is said to have eyes that are filled with perishing dreams and with wrecks of forgotten delirium. She sighs inaudibly at times, she is meek to the point of hopeless, and she walks among the hopeless. Let's get into it. We see Susie Banyan as she arrives at the airport in Germany. Argento originally wanted this part played by Daria Nicolodi, who had starred in some of his other works, but the studio insisted on an American actress to make it more marketable. Argento said he cast Jessica Harper because she has big eyes. What I love about this scene in the airport as she's exiting is as she's walking near the front doors, when they open, you hear this music. When they close, you don't. It's kind of like, what is she walking into? Very little audio was recorded while filming this movie. All voices and sounds were later added, so all actors' voices were dubbed. The actors spoke their native language while acting, since they were not being recorded, so multiple languages were being spoken on set. Argento, loving the sound of Jessica Harper's voice, was disappointed that the Italian viewers never got to hear it, just the dubbed voice. The music for this film is absolutely iconic, and it hits hard. I recommend watching it with remote nearby. One moment you are listening to a conversation, and the next you are blasted with this music. Dario Argento composed it with the band Goblin and would blast it on set to unnerve the cast. Right away you notice bright colors and a very unique way of filming. The color scheme was based on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and was shot to look like an acid trip. Rather fitting, considering Mater Suspiriorum came to her creator in an opium-filled dream. Susie arrives at Madame Blanc's Marcos Tanz Academy, a school where already seasoned dancers come to perfect their dance technique. As she heads to the front door, a frantic woman exits, mumbling to herself, and then runs off. Susie presses the bell, and the voice over the speaker turns her away, claiming to not know who she is. As Susie is riding in a cab through the forest, she spots the young woman who frantically fled the academy, running through the trees. This young woman is named Pat, has just arrived at her friend Sonia's apartment, and just look at this building. The colors, wild angles, just makes it fun to look at. Sonia leaves Pat alone in her room, and Pat decides to look out the window. A big Argento MO is beautiful deaths. If you can get artistic with murder, I'm in. Just look at this. Beautiful. Beautiful. Fucking gorgeous. If you love gore, Argento is your man. A blind man by the name of Daniel walks to the academy with his dog, as Susie comes back the next day. She meets Miss Tanner, the dance instructor, who is surprised to hear Susie was turned away the night before, and Madame Blanc, the vice directress. Blanc is played by Joan Bennett. This is her last feature film. Madame Blanc explains that the directress is traveling abroad. We then meet her nephew, Albert. Creepy looking kid. Madame Blanc is speaking with 3 policemen about the murder of Pat at the hands of some madman. Susie tells them that she had seen a woman leave the night before. They seem interested, they leave, and we never see them again. Susie is told she will room with a student in town, that there are no rooms available at the academy presently. She is taken to the locker room where she meets several other students, including her new roommate Olga and her new friend Sarah. Dario Argento originally wanted the school's age limit to be 12. His father, Salvatore Argento, who was also the producer, said a film this violent would surely be banned if it included children. Argento agreed to change the age to 20, but he kept everything else the same. The characters come off as naive and have somewhat childish dialogue.
I once read that names which begin with the letter S are the names of snakes.
Argento also put doorknobs high, causing the actresses to reach up to open them, like children. Susie is shown her new room, and her belongings are delivered by Mark. Olga explains that Mark is Mrs. Tanner's errand boy, since he cannot afford the tuition. It is quite obvious he has a crush on Susie. Olga and Susie talk about when Susie saw Pat leave the night before. Susie pictures it and remembers a few words Pat said, things that made no sense. Secret and Iris.
Secret. Iris.
Back at the academy, Susie is told there is now a room available at the academy, but says she would rather stay with Olga. She later runs into Cook and Albert in the hall. The star Cook is polishing suddenly flashes bright into Susie's face, disorienting her, causing her to not only be unable to dance, but to pass out on the floor. She awakens in her new room where her bags have already been delivered. She is informed she is now rooming at the academy. Lack of activity and torn ligaments are what she is told caused the hemorrhage. That she is now to be on a bland diet and drink wine to replace her fluids. She is then given a shot. Who knows what was in it? Paolo brings Susie her meal as she is being visited by her new neighbor Sarah. Paolo takes a liking to Sarah's lighter. Susie finds something mighty unpleasant in her hair. They are falling from the ceiling. Mrs. Tanner finds the source in some rotting meat in the attic. Due to the unpleasant indoor raining of maggots, all the students will sleep in the practice hall for one night until fumigations can happen the next day. Although the teachers never sleep at the academy, they will this night on the other side of the curtain. And here's Mark again. Yeah, that's normal. We see a figure take a cot behind Sarah and Susie and emit a very unusual snore. Jarred awake, Sarah wakes Susie. She explains that they were lied to when told the directress was abroad. She has heard this snore before. Sarah was told the directress had stayed in the room next to hers overnight a couple years ago and snored just like that. The next morning, Sarah asked if the directress was there last night and was told no. Cook and Albert approach Daniel's dog. We hear what sounds like an attack. Mrs. Tanner goes to Daniel, saying his dog has viciously attacked Albert, and if she ever sees it again, she will kill it. Daniel, extremely upset, quits and leaves. And Paolo continues to bring Susie her wine. Sarah has come to Susie's room. They hear the teacher's footsteps, seemingly as they leave. Susie, very drowsy, does not believe they are leaving. The steps go to the right, the exit is to the left. They are still in the school. Sarah will count the steps to find out where they go. In town, Daniel now leaves a jovial pub and is walking alone with his dog, who starts to bark. We see birds fly off, but the shadows flying around Daniel are not those of birds. Daniel's dog and companion turns on his owner, killing him and starting to eat him. Another beautiful death. Susie goes to Madame Blank and tells her about the words she heard Pat speak, secret and irises. Do you notice what is on the wall between them? Those look a lot like irises to me, but more on that later. Sarah is unhappy that Susie went to Madame Blank. She confesses that hers was the voice on the intercom that sent Susie away. Pat was explaining something to her and was scared away when Susie arrived. Pat had been taking notes on what had been going on at the school and had given them to Sarah. Sarah said she will let Susie read them tonight. Sarah goes to Susie, who is once again unable to be awakened due to the wine. Sarah says her notes have been stolen. All she had left is the paper she counted the steps on. Sarah, now hearing footsteps and laughter, leaves Susie's room but leaves the paper on Susie's bedside table. She is followed through the academy and attacked. Once again, all we see is an arm. She climbs through a window into another room. On the other side of the room, she sees an open door. Trying to get to that door, she doesn't look down and falls into coiled wire and gets stuck. The actress playing Sarah, Stephanie Cassini, said this scene was very difficult to act out. The coils of wire were so tight that they painfully pinched her when she moved. A gloved hand reaches out of the door and Sarah is gone. The next day, Susie is told Sarah has left the school. Mark is there to confirm this. Susie calls Sarah's friend Frank and meets him off campus. The actor playing Frank, Udo Kier, did not have time to learn his lines. So someone laid behind the bench he and Jessica Harper sat on to tell him his lines. Frank used to be Sarah's psychiatrist and they remained friends. Frank explains that Sarah found out from an unknown person, Pat, that the academy was founded in 1895 by a Greek immigrant named Helena Markos, who the townspeople thought was a witch. She had been expelled from several European countries and went by the title Black Queen. Helena Markos was able to come up with a great deal of money and founded the academy. It was a school of dance and occult sciences. In 1905, Helena Markos died in a fire. Her favorite pupil took over and the occult studies were ended. Frank calls Professor Milius over. He is an expert on witchcraft and the occult. This actor, Rudolf Schundler, didn't speak a lick of English, so he would tap Jessica Harper's leg with his foot to let her know when to speak her lines. Milius said that he has actually met witches, that they have tremendous powers, but only to do harm. Their goal is to acquire great wealth, which can only happen by causing harm to others, such as sickness or death. Witches who master their magic become 100% more powerful than other witches. Helena Markos was a master of her magic. Professor Milius goes on to explain that a coven's power lies with its leader. The leader is the head. A coven deprived of its leader is like a headless cobra, harmless. Back at the academy, Susie learns from Cook that everyone has gone to the theater. She has had enough of her diet. The food gets flushed and the wine goes down the sink. She opens the bathroom window after seeing a flash, and in flies a bat. Now, I just love this practical effect. Does it look great? Well, no, but give me practical over any CGI any day. She dispenses with the bat, and a storm is building outside. Back in Susie's room, she once again hears footsteps. She has found the paper Sarah left for her with the counted steps and has decided to find out where they go. After multiple turns and one mad dash past Cook, Susie ends up in Madame Blank's office. She realizes the footsteps stopped there because of the carpet. After looking around a bit, she glances in a mirror and sees the irises behind her. She has another flashback of Pat. Only this time, she is able to figure out more of what was said.
The secret! I saw behind the door! 3 irises! Turn the blue one!
She turns the blue iris, and sure enough, a door opens. This pleases me greatly. I have said before how much I love secret passages, and this was a great one. Susie goes down the long hallway, and at the end, she finds the coven. Madame Blank is casting a spell of sickness and death on Susie. She has invoked Helena, and Susie starts to feel the pain. She then finds Sarah, as Pavlo is trying to find her, using Sarah's lighter that he liked so much. Susie goes through a door and finds herself in a bedchamber. The figure on the bed is emitting a very unusual snore that Susie has heard before. Susie bumps into a peacock statue, knocking it over and waking the sleeping figure. Susie arms herself with a glass peacock feather. This figure is Helena Markos, who is very much alive. This is the only movie in the Three Mothers trilogy where the character is not given the name of the inspiration, in this case, Mater Suspiriorum. The voice of Markos is actually Daria Nicolodi, the woman Argento wanted to star in this film.
Who is it? Who's there? I've been expecting you. The American girl.
The actress playing Markos was not credited. Apparently, she was a 90-year-old former prostitute that Argento found on the streets of Rome, Italy. Helena Markos tells Susie she is going to meet death now, the living dead, as Sarah comes through the door, pins still in her eyes, carrying a knife. Now, even though Markos went invisible, her outline can be seen when lightning strikes. Susie takes advantage of this and stabs Markos through the neck when lightning struck. This next scene comes from a dream that co-writer Daria Nicolodi had involving an invisible witch and a panther. In the dream, both explode. The scenes where everything explodes and shatters were the scariest for Jessica Harper because the explosions were very close to her. With the head of the cobra cut off, we see what happens to the rest of the coven. Susie makes it out just as the academy catches fire. And just like that, the end. I have heard lots of people were unhappy with the abrupt ending. I myself am not mad at it. The whole movie was a build-up, an intriguing mystery. Once it was solved, the end. Not much else to say. Apparently, Argento felt so low after the completion of this film that for a time he was suicidal. At first, this movie did not do well. Eventually, though, it got a huge fan base. Once it hit it big, the studio put pressure on Argento to make a sequel. Little did they know, he already had 2 planned. I loved the look of the witch, even though she looked nothing like Mater Suspiriorum. The filming style and color scheme was quite successful at keeping tensions high. Was it a perfect movie? No. Was it highly entertaining and easily rewatchable? You betcha. This was not my first watch and will not be my last. Obviously, Suspiria gets 5 coffins. I would recommend it to any horror fan. If you have enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and feel free to leave a comment. I always read them. Thanks again for watching and see you next time.